Everybody's been asking me about what's going on here. My first response is too much time on the freeway. But I think maybe I mentioned it to Mark, but no one else. I've had multiple surgeries on my hands, and I've broken this finger a few times. And this is called trigger finger, but it's a tendon in here that acts all, that swells up. So, and it's difficult to play the guitar. But every time I start to feel sorry for myself, I think of two people. Excuse me. I think of Django Reinhardt and Bogus Bob Bentley from Buffalo. Now, Django Reinhardt, if anybody's heard of him, is a guitar player. He's a gypsy, and he has like 2.5 fingers, and you'd need 20 fingers to play like he does. So I said, well, if he can do it, I can't complain. And then there's Bogus Bob Bentley from Buffalo. He only has one hand, and on that one hand he only has the third finger. And his chosen profession is pickpocketing. And he does pretty good. Of course, all he steals is donuts and bagels, but he's good at it. It's a long way to go for a finger.
Right.
Anywho, moving on. Oh, that's a good idea. Who said I thought of that? All right. Where am I? Oh, last Sunday was the blues. Excuse me. Last Sunday we couldn't come down here, missed all that great music, the great comedy, the who knows what Mark's going to put on. He's got such a great creative mind. And I also miss ogling at all these provocative women rolling around here. Now, I'm too old to chase women. I still like to flirt with them, I just can't remember why. And I think about my first attempted romance. I was a young lad up on Grandpa's ranch up in northern Nevada.
With the sheep?
Huh?
With the sheep?
Oh, no. This is, I was up there and I was attempting to have a romantic encounter, and I remember when she broke off and started walking away, I got upset. And immaturely I picked up a rock and I threw it at her. And Grandpa got mad because it broke off one of her horns. And just no luck with him, and it went downhill from there. Next gal I got involved with was a little Vietnamese gal. Looks like she had just slid down from heaven on a brass pole. She offered to hide me out in her basement for the duration of the Vietnam War, which wasn't all that risky because she lived in Reno at the time. She invited me over to her house, and she said, you wait here, I'm going to take a shower. She come back from the shower, she's wearing a skimpy little towel, just barely covering her goodies, and she had some goodies to cover too. Now she had a razor in her hand. She said, hey, I just shaved my sweet spot, gesturing down there. You know what that means, don't you? And I jumped up and said, fuck yeah, and I grabbed a plunger. It means your drain is clogged, doesn't it? She threw me out. And then I went on a blind date, and I regretted that. She was so fucking ugly that even her parents were laughing at me. She said, where are you going to take me? I said, I'm going to take you someplace where my buddies can't see me with your ugly ass. To myself, I said that. To her, I said, well, let's go for a drive out in the desert. She said, okay. So we go out in the desert. We found a big flat boulder to sit on and admire the scenery. I said, yeah, nobody's going to see us out here except for the buzzards. And then, sure enough, just as soon as I thought that, here come a flock of buzzards flying by. They come by and they took one look at her, and they covered their eyes with one wing and went off into the other direction. So that didn't work out well. That saddened her some. So I said, hey, there's a carnival up the road. Let's go check that out. She said, okay. So we go to the carnival. She said she wanted to ride on the merry-go-round. So I buy her a ticket on the merry-go-round. She gets on the merry-go-round on one of those painted horses and rides around the circle, and I'm waiting outside the ride. And when she gets off, the carnival ride operator comes running up to us. He looks at her, then he looks at the horse, he looks at her, he looks at the horse, he looks at her, he looks at me and said, thanks a lot, buddy, now I'm going to have to shoot that horse. She was not pretty. She was not pretty. So she said she wasn't feeling very useful. And I said, you must have done something useful recently. She said, well, yeah, you come to think of it, I helped capture a serial peeping Tom in our neighborhood, and he was convicted too. I said, well, that's useful. So how'd you do that? She said, well, I didn't have to do a lot. They tracked him down from the DNA in the vomit he left on my windowsill. Okay. They gotta get better when they can't get worse. But she broke up with me too, and she said what I could suggest for a career for her. I said we could always visit maximum prisons and cure those sex offenders. She didn't like that at all. She told me to get lost. But the one I was really fond of, I met when I was overseas in a bar. She was at the end of a bar wearing a tight dress. In fact, the first thing I thought was, man, she must get up an hour early to get that fucking dress on. It's so tighter than a snake's ass stretched over a doorknob. And in the early 70s, astrology was very popular. Everybody's going around, what's your sign, what's your sign? It's neon, leave me alone. So, but you're in the bar, you got to play that game. So I walked up to her and I said, say, good looking, what sign were you born under? Well, she uncrossed and recrossed her legs so provocatively, it made my head spin. And I ain't talking about this one either. And when the blood left my head and went back to my brain, she leaned forward and said, I was born under the sign that says for rent, honey. But I was too stupid to know what she meant. And I still remember her name. She had a beautiful name, Suzanne Teresa Dubois. She said I could call her STD for short. So, yeah, she was so sexy. When she'd eat a banana, the fucking banana would swell up and get bigger. She was hot. She was one hot mama. She was famous for entertaining the troops, one soldier at a time. She was rotten to the core, but pretty damn good to the infantry. She'd been under more sheets than the KKK. And I'd heard that when she graduated from high school, the football team retired her jersey. But she left too. Last I heard, she had to go stateside to appear in court, and then she eloped with a hung jury. My grandpa said, you couldn't get lucky in a women's prison with a fistful of pardons, and I think he's right. So, anyway, there must be something more important than women and sex, and whoever finds out what the hell it is going to make a fucking fortune. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Yeah. David Dennis. I think I know her. Susie. Her name is Susie, right?